Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to the June 19th edition of Weekly Witness. We are excited that you are back. I have certainly missed each and every one of you over the course of the last few weeks when we were not together. Every Monday at noon, I felt this swelling in my heart thinking of each and every one of you. I do want to say that over the course of the last legislative session, Texas Impact made a decision to pilot what we called Weekly Witness. And every Monday during session at noon, we gathered at First United Methodist Church. We had friends on webinar and friends on Facebook Live who would learn what was going on during the Texas legislative session, think about how their faith impacted those different public policy issues, and learned how they could engage with the Texas legislature. So as soon as legislative session ended, we launched a survey to solicit your feedback in terms of what you thought about it and what we should do moving forward. And from our perspective, we certainly think that Weekly Witness was a success, and we wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you who participated. There were over 5,000 telephone calls that went into Texas legislators from Weekly Witness folks. Many of you participated in visits to your legislators, and I think we had over 1,000 visits to Texas legislators from members of the Weekly Witness community. And so we certainly thought it was a success, and when we launched the survey, you responded in kind and also said it was something that you wanted to continue. And so we will be continuing Weekly Witness. Today is the first post-session Weekly Witness.
Or pre-session.
Or pre-session, that's right. We do have a special session that's coming up June 18th, and we'll have
July.
Sorry, I don't even know which month I'm in right now. It was a long legislative session and a long summer now, I guess, too. So we will answer some questions today, but we will also have a Weekly Witness on July 5th. That will be live at First United Methodist Church, and we will be meeting Monday, July 17th, also at First United Methodist Church. The July 5th session will be Josh Houston and Ahmad Khan from the Texas Impact staff will give kind of a wrap-up of the regular session that just ended. On July 17th, Josh will be with us to give us a preview of the special session, which will begin the next day. So not necessarily weekly over the course of the next few weeks as several staff members have vacation. But starting July 17th, we will start meeting weekly again, live at First United Methodist Church, but also on Facebook Live and webinar. So we hope that you'll join us then and then start getting in the habit of meeting again every Monday starting July 17th.
Yeah, and can we just say that the special session is short and brutal, and we would love to have as many people as possible at the July 17th event just to kind of give us a good kickoff.
Yes. It's always fun to have people in the room, but
with us live or online.
Live or online. As always, you can stay up to date on what's going on with Weekly Witness on the Texas Impact website, texasimpact.org/Weekly Witness. We'll be updating information and speakers there, and so we hope that you will tune in. We hope that you'll share that with your friends. This is a movement that started this last legislative session, and we hope that it continues throughout the interim. We hope that we'll be able to provide speakers on a wide range of topics, legislative experts, religious leaders talking about how their faith influences their views of public policy, and more from the Texas Impact team on ways that you can get involved. If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes of Weekly Witness, you can send me an email at scott@texasimpact.org, or as always, use the hashtag on Twitter, #WeeklyWitness. Today, we do have B with us, and we had this special announcement that we wanted to make this morning, but the bulk of today's time together will be opportunities for you all to ask questions of our Executive Director, B. Moorhead. You can submit those via webinar in the chat section. If you go to the bottom of the screen, you'll see a bubble that says chat. Or you can go to Facebook Live and post those in the comment section, or by Twitter using the hashtag Weekly Witness. I'll see if I can keep up with all three of our different technologies by phone and computer here. Or you can always shoot me an email and I'll get it there as well. But we did have a handful of questions that came in by email in advance of today. I wonder if there's anything you want to add before we launch into the questions.
No, I mean, I think everything I want to say comes in the context of answering the questions.
All right, so we will start out with the questions that we received via email. First up from our friend Wendy in Dallas, who had a question specifically about one of the 20 items on the special session call, and maybe you can talk through exactly what
actually, you know
is.
what? Maybe let's do that first. So several of the questions have to do with issues on the called special session. So let's just maybe for a second say what the special session is about. So as everybody knows, the legislature meets for 140 days, once every 2 years, in a regular legislative session, and then they sign up. The only way they can come back is the governor calls them back for a special session, and a special session has to be no more than 30 days, and it has to be about specific topics the governor calls them for. So this special session, and there's kind of a reason, there's something that precipitates it, like either a change in circumstances that happened since the regular session, or historically in Texas, sometimes a fiscal crisis will precipitate a special session. But this special session is precipitated by a common problem or common issue, which is there was a bill that didn't pass, a sunset bill that needs to pass, or the agency that's involved, which has to do with licensing doctors, would go out of existence after this year. So nominally, the legislature is coming back to deal with this sunset legislation. But what the governor has said is once they get done doing that, which shouldn't take long. I mean, arguably, I think the House believes they kind of did deal with it. They just need to maybe sort of dot a couple I's and cross a couple T's. But once they are done, then the governor has said there are 19 other issues that the legislature should consider. And the 19 issues we can kind of divide into categories. So 3 of them have to do with school finance and school administration. So one is a teacher pay raise. So there's a teacher pay increase of $1,000, administrative flexibility in teacher hiring and retention practices, and school finance reform commission. And you'll remember there was a bill that had to do with establishing a commission to look at school finance reform. So those 3 are kind of general. So there's one that has to do with property tax reform that would limit local government's ability to raise taxes. One that has to do with caps on state and local spending. So that's sort of the flip side of that. It would limit people's ability the local government's ability to spend money. One that would prevent cities from regulating what property owners do with trees on private land. That's Wendy's question. We'll get to that in a second. One that is preventing local governments from changing rules midway through construction projects. We're going to assume that is related to an incident. One that has to do with speeding up the local government permitting process. So that's probably the trees, the construction projects, and the permitting process may all be related. That would be, maybe somebody on the webinar knows more than I do about that. Municipal annexation reform, another thing that came up during the regular session. Texting while driving preemption. So we passed a bill that said there's a statewide texting while driving ban, but there are still some ordinances about that too. So this is probably to align those things. Then there is one that is described as privacy. That'd be the bathroom bill. I guess we're going to talk about that for a minute. Prohibition of taxpayer dollars to collect union dues. So that's sort of generally an anti-union, anti-organized labor bill or proposal. There are 3 that have to do with abortion restrictions. So there's prohibiting taxpayer funding of abortion providers, pro-life insurance reform, and strengthening abortion reporting requirements when health complications arise. And then there are 3 that kind of don't fit in any other category. One of them has to do with do not resuscitate orders, end of life stuff. One has to do with cracking down on mail-in ballot fraud, and then one is extending the maternal mortality task force. And you remember the Texas leads the nation in maternal mortality, and that was something that came up a lot during session. And so one is to do with that. So that's the 19 issues. They are broad. They cover a lot of territory. A lot of them do have to do with preempting local government decisions. But with respect to one of those, this tree ordinance, so the issue is a lot of communities have ordinances that say that you can't cut down what are called heritage trees, so trees of a certain size that are part of the landscape. And there was a bill during the session that would have limited cities' ability to have those kind of ordinances, and the governor vetoed it because he said he didn't think it was strong enough. So they are coming back actually to take another swing at it.
All right, so we also got a question via Facebook Live talking about the teacher pay raises, and this comes from Paul. Would there be funding for that? Would they amend the budget to put that in, or would that be an unfunded mandate to local school districts?
I don't know. I know that the House wanted to increase teacher pay, and you will remember we had in the House budget there was a teacher pay increase, and then the Senate didn't, I guess, approve that particular format. So I think this is to go back and try to see if we can still get the teachers some money, even though the House and Senate initially didn't agree.
Okay. We also had another question come in via Facebook Live. You mentioned the number 13 on the list, privacy, talking about the bathroom bill and its
bathrooms.
Asking if Texas Impact will be working on that. Calls the bathroom bill harmful in this question.
Yeah, so during the regular session, Texas Impact didn't do much on the bathroom issue. I mean, what we said early on, and we kind of stuck to our story, was mainly a distraction from what we consider to be much more urgent issues, foster care, budget, healthcare. It is now one of 19 issues, not one of 6,500 bills. And because the governor has put it on the call, it's not sort of an optional question. It is the what's for dinner in the legislative session. Texas Impact has a broad membership. They don't all take the same views on some issues related to LGBTQ policies, particularly with respect to ordination and marriage, but none of our membership supports discrimination. So yeah, I mean, I think now that everybody's hand is sort of forced to come down on one side or the other of this thing, Texas Impact doesn't support pushing through discriminatory legislation that arguably is going to hurt the state without solving any problems.
So is it fair to say in the weeks to come, we'll have more information about how people can get involved?
It is, and maybe by the time we're done talking here, we'll have a background on our website. I know that Imad and Sean are working on getting that up now, so maybe so.
So always nice to plug the website. You can always find more information at texasimpact.org and stay up to date on things that are happening. We talked about all of the different special session agenda items, and you talked about the fact that usually special sessions are called because of crisis, whether it be funding or whatever. Do you feel like this special session was a manufactured crisis? Is that fair to say?
You can take it from me, or you can take it from the major media outlets of the state. Yeah, I think everyone would characterize it that way. Is that a question that came in?
No, I'm just responding to your
That's just us.
That's just me.
Yeah.
And so a couple of the questions that did come in talked about how people could be involved. One of the questions I'll go ahead and take and ask if people need to re-register to be on the rapid response team, or if we were planning on rolling those over. I'll go ahead and say that we have over 200 people who are on the rapid response team, and my intention is to go ahead and continue sending rapid response notifications to those people and anybody else who signs up. You can sign up to be on the rapid response team at texasimpact.org/take-action. And we send those notifications when your legislator is an important one to contact, and or when your telephone calls can really make a difference. If you've been on that rapid response team and want to come off, you can send me an email next time I send one, or respond to a text and ask to have your name removed. But for now, we're going to continue adding names to that and don't plan on subtracting any unless people.
Yeah, and can I just chime in that during a special session, the idea of rapid response is really important because it's such a short time in the first place that when stuff happens, we got to be on top of it. So we really appreciate people being available for the very quick turnaround response.
This question for Mary may be one that is a preview for our next weekly witness, but it asks if there's a way to get a list of votes for her representative. She knows several bills that she was following and knows how to look those up on the Texas Legislature online site, but wanted to know if there are any other ways that she can see lists so she can keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a couple of answers. One is all is a lot, because that includes every congratulatory resolution for everybody who, won a prize in the 4-H club in that district. But we are working on a post-session wrap-up that's going to include a wide variety of bills that we're interested in. Honestly, if you really want to know every single one, the legislator's office will have that.
Right. And follow up on that one, or I guess another one actually, is there a website or organization that the Texas Impact would recommend that would help rapid response or weekly witness people keep up with what's going on in Congress? She says that, you can tune into news outlets to hear what's going on the big issues, but is there a way to keep up with things that are happening under the radar?
Yeah, and actually, I mean, there's a couple of answers to that. One is we're working on some of the biggest stuff, and we will continue to do that. So on healthcare, climate, and then as we move into the congressional budget process, looking at food and poverty programs, you can expect us to be doing more on those issues. But the other thing I would highlight is all the denominations and the Jewish community and the Muslim community have lobbyists in Washington who go talk to all the members of Congress, including Texas's members of Congress. And I would say it's really important for people on congressional issues to stay connected to their denominational lobbyist or their denominational lobby team, so that you know what your community is doing. And we got a really good taste of that this morning, because UMW, the National United Methodist Women, sent out an action alert that's pretty similar to the ones that the other denominations are also sending out right now on Medicaid. If you didn't get that, we'll try to post more of those denominational action alerts especially during the legislative interim, when we're not inundating people with state legislative content.
Right. I'm going to come back to a couple of the Facebook Live questions in a second, but I think we have one more that was emailed in. Paul asks, he said that he made several telephone calls during the legislative session. A lot went to voicemail. And just to summarize, what is the best way to contact your legislator? Is it on Twitter? Is it by telephone? Can you talk through a little bit about how we recommend people?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say is, if we ask you to do it a particular way, we have a reason for wanting you to do it that way. It's not just that, we're in the habit. But I would say generally, I would urge people to watch the Betsy videos, or Betsy Singleton videos. And the one on phone calls, you'll see Representative Diego Bernal's staff member gives a pretty good explanation of what's important about phone calls and how to do a good one. Phone calls really are important. And if you call and the staff member says, all we're doing is taking pro-con positions, just let us know, and we just want to make sure you're a constituent. That was a really valuable call. I mean, if they say that's what they're doing, it's because they need to know their count. So that is a good thing. Twitter is especially good if you are trying to call out a legislator. So if you, and I don't know if we have legislative staff who are watching this too, but if you're trying to get a legislator's attention and also make sure other people that are trying to get it, tagging that legislator will do that. And then finally, during this interim period, and then when this special session is over, hopefully then we'll be done for a while and be another interim, it's really important that people actually go meet with their legislator's office in the district. So I would say what I wish everybody was doing right now was going to the district office in groups of 2 or 3 and having a really good sit down about these 19 issues, if nothing else. What does your legislator think they want to do about these things?
I actually had somebody in my Sunday school class yesterday who mentioned that they were going with a group to talk about one of the issues that that affected their profession. And so we'd encourage everybody to do that, either as an individual or as a group. Do you also want to talk some about letters to the editor? That wasn't in the question, but it's another way that people
and I had wondered if our letters to the editor friends were around the office today, but we are very interested in generating letters to the editor. I know a lot of people feel like, that's so 20th century, but it really is important. And as we've said, people who came to my very first presentation 17 years ago, I haven't changed my story since then. One of the great things about letters to the editor is when they get published, whether that's online or in print, then you can reuse them. So at my church, we have a bulletin board, and if somebody gets a letter to the editor, we cut it out and put it on the bulletin board. So it's a good way it's the multiple uses for those letters to the editor. And
I'd also say allow Texas Impact to help amplify your letters to the editor. If you get something submitted, feel free to email that to us and let us know, and we'll help spread the word. If you're tweeting at your legislator and want to use the hashtag weekly witness, that'll help us be able to see that. Or use the hashtag TXLEGE. So other people can see that, but send us an email. If you're meeting with your legislator, take a picture and let us know. We'd love to hear from you and hear the work
absolutely
that's going on. Jason online via Facebook Live. This is more of a process question. Does Speaker Strauss keep his position, or do they reelect a speaker before a special session?
Let me get my crystal ball and I'll be right back. No, I mean, I think no one can say for sure, obviously. Without a doubt, there's a few members of the House who are unhappy with the way things went. They didn't get their particular legislative agenda affirmed. Of course, the point of the House and the point of our whole legislative process is nobody gets their whole legislative agenda affirmed. It's a collaborative, consensus process. But having said all that, we certainly hope that he keeps his position. He's steered the House for 6 sessions or 5 sessions. But the way we'll know is when the members come back in session, and the only thing that could happen would be if somebody makes a motion to re-examine.
Historically speaking, though.
Historically speaking, well, I mean, historically speaking, in, pretty recent memory, we've had certainly incidents where enough members got really upset that we've switched speakers kind of midstream, but I guess we'll all see.
Tune into Weekly Witness and we'll
tune into Weekly Witness and we'll see.
Another question that came in is Laura would love to know, as far in advance as possible, if Texas Impact will be hosting lobbying events at the Capitol during the special session, especially with kids being out of school. Some folks might like to bring their kids to one. And I guess I'll take the first stab at it.
Sure.
That we will be hosting Weekly Witness every Monday at noon during the special session at First United Methodist Church. At each one of those Weekly Witness sessions, we'll give an update on what's going on as far as we can tell that week, and give people some specific action steps that they can take. At least that's how we did it during the regular.
Right. But I mean, I think, that without a doubt, there will be some point when we'll either hold or participate in some lobbying grassroots type activity at the Capitol. I mean, we'd all love to know as far in advance as possible. What we know is the special session is starting July 18th. We have no idea. That special session could go really fast. They could do the sunset legislation, and then everybody could say, not interested in those other things after all, and they could adjourn. And it's the shortest special session that I've participated in. They came back, did the bill, and left that same day. So, but to the extent that we know, we will give people as much advance notice as we possibly can.
I feel like Laura might have just given us an extra agenda item for our staff meeting this afternoon.
That's
Thanks
probably
for that.
Right.
I am not seeing any other questions on Facebook Live. Let me check the webinar. I don't think I missed any of the ones that were emailed in. So do you have any closing thoughts for today?
Just that we really appreciate everyone participating in Weekly Witness during the regular session. I personally, although I didn't come over and talk that much, I was just blown away by the participation, the number of calls people made, the amount of engagement that I saw was just really, really affirming for us, and it's for us as a staff. And I think also, and again, I mean, this really bears repeating, there are national advocates within all the denominations and traditions, and it really means a lot to them to see people in the local, out in the districts actually doing the work. So just hope that we get robust participation this time. And, on the bathroom issue, I'm going to say clearly, out of these 20 issues, one of these things is not like the other. And it is going to be, it's going to be divisive. There's no question about it. I would just urge our constituency particular to remember that God loves everybody, and the point of the faith-based participation in the legislative process is not to kind of amp up the divisiveness. It is to try to help us be the beloved community as best we can. And as we know, the beloved community that Dr. King described wasn't one where there wasn't conflict. It was just where all conflicts were resolved in a loving and respectful way. So hopefully we'll be able to help move our state in the direction of that loving and respectful discussion and disposition of what is going to be a painful issue.
I think that's right. And I think with the incidents of the past week, I think it's especially important to remember that we as a community of faith have the opportunity to raise the level of discourse in this country. And it takes people of good conscience and people of faith participating actively in the process and changing the tone to one that respects all viewpoints and all people, but also speaking an important and prophetic word when that needs to be spoken. And so there's a lot going on in the world right now. And a lot of times it can be painful, and a lot of times it can be divisive, and a lot of times it can be harmful. But I wake up each and every day thankful that each and every one of you are participating in this journey with us. And I said at the beginning, I really mean it. I've missed you all over the course of the last few weeks. And I look forward to seeing many of you July 5th and July 17th at First United Methodist Church here in Austin, as well as online. But more, I look forward to continuing the conversation about how each of us can work together to continue to move this state forward. Shoot us your emails, give us a call if you have ideas about how you can participate, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the weeks and months to come. I guess I'll close out this morning by saying that if you appreciate the work of Texas Impact, we encourage you to join and become a member. You can do that online at texasimpact.org/join. You'll notice for the first time in several weeks, I didn't start this Weekly Witness episode with a long list of all of the sponsors that are sponsoring. That's because we're starting fresh. So if you'd like to sponsor a future Weekly Witness episode, you can contact us at engagement@texasimpact.org, and we'd love to visit with you about how you can do that. Thank you for spending the time with us today. We'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Until then, thanks for all you do. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks
Bye.
for joining us.